Valeu, galera, tudo bem? You're listening to the Third Fleet Podcast, and this is episode 54, I think, and one that I've been looking forward to for a long time. Not only is it another fun excuse to carve out time to chat with my fellow host and friend Rurikhan, but this is one of those episodes where we have a special guest, time zones be damned. When you hear video game music, does the structure of the composition tell a story? Does the chord progression give build-up and resolve, create tension or dissonance? When a part of a piece makes you feel happy, sad, or heroic, why is that? Well, that is what our guest has been doing on YouTube, breaking down some of our favorite tracks from Monster Hunter, Soulsborne games, and more. It is my extreme pleasure to introduce Davi Vasc to the podcast. From across the globe, how are you doing, Davi?
Thank you, Gaijin. Thank you, Ruri. I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, guys, for having me. How are you guys doing?
Valeu, galera, tudo bem? That was a very good try, Gaijin. That was a very good try.
Very good intro.
Nice. So this has actually been in the making for a long time. We were actually discussing for how long we've been planning to have Vasc on because, Vasc was telling us that Gaijin started retweeting him in October 2020. So this has been a really long time in the making because I do remember talking about it. And then we had multiple requests from a lot of you guys. But it's like if we were going to bring Davi over, it had to be a show focused more around music, and it's kind of weird recording this today because the PC version comes out tomorrow. There's a lot of people like, what about the PC version? It's like there's already a video of that in my channel. I think Gaijin agrees with most of the stuff that I said, so that stuff is sorted, and I'll be streaming it and all of that stuff. Today we're talking about music.
Music only.
not only. I mean, there's other things that we got to talk about, but mostly it's going to be around the topic of music and Monster Hunter music, and not just that. I'm gonna try and get another victim into Final Fantasy 14. It's going to be that simple. I'm just going to get one at a time. I collect everyone's soul. It's that simple.
Get in line. I'm going to be selling the music of Soul Sacrifice. You're going to be selling Final Fantasy. And
The composer for Soul Sacrifice is Yasunori Mitsuda, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I've heard a little bit about it, but I don't remember much. But yeah, I love Yasunori Mitsuda. It's one of my favorites. So
how about
you're welcome.
Masayoshi Soken, come on, you don't know Soken?
Soken, I know Soken.
Yeah.
Soken.
Soken does 14.
This is my party. This is my party trick. I know the name of all the composers of all the games.
They're my buddy.
But I haven't heard a lot of Final Fantasy 14 music, but I do know Soken.
Okay.
It's too daunting of a catalog to look at. It's like 8 years of
of music, right? To catch up to.
Yeah.
So I think a good place to start is because I don't understand why you don't have 5 million followers and you're the next Davi 504. I don't understand why not, because I absolutely love your stuff. Look at the links in the description down below, guys. Come on, do it. Trust me, you won't regret it. I recommend you as much as I recommend Monster Hunter, but why don't we let the people know, one, why I've been so excited to talk to you, and two, just in general what you do, as I think people outside of just watching gameplay videos or tutorials may not be familiar with why I am so excited. So I guess we'll start with the obvious. So you are a game music composer. Is that the right order of words?
Yeah. Game music composer. Yeah, I'm a game music composer. I've been composing music for video games full time since 2017, and I kind of wanted to make a YouTube channel at some point. I made a YouTube channel on 2020, and I thought that being a game composer is something cool, right? Is something unique, and I wanted to make my YouTube channel around that. So, yeah.
Yeah. So the video that first brought me to your channel was the thumbnail that you made for the I want to say it was the composer reacts to the theme song for Bazel, and you said
oh my god. So I have an axe to grind. Why you gotta call my boy an attention-seeking bastard. Like, what is
Watch
up
the
with
video
that?
and you'll know why.
No, I saw the video. I still have to give him a hard time. You got to call my boy an attention-seeking bastard.
Is he your favorite monster?
Is
Bazel your favorite monster?
Yes, it's not actually Bazel. It is seething Bazel. So like the Iceborne variant that they added. But yeah, Bazel is my favorite monster.
I actually got a lot of comments like that of people saying, "Dude, don't call him annoying. Poor guy. He's just trying his best."
What?
Yeah, but that was
you did him great lip service during that video, talking about he doesn't give a shit what's going on. Sorry, my language, but he doesn't care what's going on. It's like, everybody, look at me, here I come.
Yeah, he's the hero. He doesn't bear being left to the side, right? He has to be the main focus of the hunt. That was my interpretation of his very dramatic theme. But one important thing that I think we have to keep in mind is that the stuff that I talk about in my videos, they are just my interpretation, because I also get a lot of comments from people saying, how do you know the composer wanted to do that? How can you be so sure this is what the composer wanted? And I don't know what the composer was going for. What I say in my videos, is just my own interpretation of things.
That's what I love is
one of the things that I feel like a lot of people need to understand is a lot of things about content creation, and I think one of the most fun things about content creation is speculation. Like I remember some of the most popular videos that I used to do like a long time ago would be like me trying to dissect like a Dark Souls trailer and trying to identify, okay, you see this thing here? This is going to be like a mechanic that's going to work like this based on the experience that I have with this previous game. And it's like, I have no idea if it's actually going to be like that. I'm just like, I don't know. I think it might be. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. It's speculation. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. And what I really like about your videos and again, it could actually be that some of the things you're picking up on is a subconscious choice of the composer, or maybe it's just a happy accident or just a fun coincidence, or it's absolutely intentional. But what I love is, I struggled with the idea that it's called a composer reacts video, because it is a reaction, but it's much more than that. What I love about what you do, because you've covered some of my favorite Monster Hunter songs and some of my favorite Bloodborne kind of Dark Souls songs, but it's the idea of like, this music makes everyone can agree, like, this music makes me feel this, like, and it's a brilliant that everyone feels not always the same thing, but in generally a lot of times it's invoking the same emotions. And what you do is offer a perspective of someone who can articulate what is it musically that is perhaps causing that to happen. And I love it, and you talk about it in a way that is easy for non-musicians to understand.
Yeah.
So is that something that you consciously made a choice about when you started, or is that just naturally how you sort of see and digest music?
This has a little bit to do with the react thing. You said at the beginning that you struggle with the idea that it's a react, and a lot of people have said that. I call it a react, but it's more of a breakdown analysis thing. And the reason why I do that is because the React format, or at least the React title, gives me more freedom, and it takes away some expectation of professionalism and of proper, almost educational content. Because exactly because I do things like you said in a way that is easy to understand, and beginner friendly and non-musician friendly. I don't want to restrain myself from having the freedom that I have in the reaction the reaction format, that I can use some terms that on proper educational content would be inappropriate. So, for example, people get mad at me still, even doing the reaction. Right? Yeah, even doing the reaction thing, people get mad at me because I call major chords happy chords, or I call minor chords sad chords.
Yeah.
I call dominant chords, tense chords, and it goes on.
But it's
I think the React.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's like I just feel that the saying it like that, like you said, makes it so much more approachable to the videos because like. If you tell me, oh yeah, this is a major chord, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, this is a minor. It's like major to me. It's like, okay, so that's an important chord, and then this other one is like,
ass chord.
It's less important because it's a minor chord. Whereas the other way is like, oh, here's a happy one, here's a tense one, here's what they're going for, and the other thing that blows my mind is that you're able to just like you listen to the music once, and then you're just like, okay, so here's the note, and I'm just like, how do you what?
How'd you pick that out, right?
It's like in a second. It's like here's this one, here's that one. And I was like,
I think that's the musical expertise and the education and the knowledge and experience, and that's what makes it special, right? Is that if I throw a bunch of paint at the wall, what do you see? And a painter would see something different. And when I throw music, music's thrown in your ears, you're going to pick up on stuff that's different than what we pick up. We're like, oh, that's cool. But you can say something that's a lot more in depth, and more meaningful about it.
Yeah, the picking up the notes is just practice. It's just years and years of music, and you start to get a feel for certain chord progressions because music is an art form, and like any other art form, there are cliches. So. The composer starts the progression in a certain way, and you say, oh, okay, he's gonna do that. He's gonna do that kind of progression. So you start to get a feel for that sort of thing. But Ruri, something I wanted to say that you mentioned about the happy chords, that is much easier, right, to understand what it means. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't believe how people get mad at me for doing that. Because and it's exactly the kind of content that I want to get away from, the educational content, the kind of proper academic stuff. That's why I kind of put myself in that position of just being, sharing music with my friends with not a lot of pomp and circumstance, because it allows me a little bit to get away with using improper terms like that.
What I do love how to me, watching your videos, is I have a slight musical background, where Ruri, I don't think you have a musical background, right?
I used to have a guitar, and I knew how to play what was it? The beginning of Thunderstruck on my acoustic guitar. And
nice.
Then I lost that, and I have no idea. I also knew how to play Smoke and but it was like the things that I knew were more like the bass line, because those are the ones everybody know, right, Davi? It's just like
yeah. I was just when you said you knew how to play the guitar, and you were saying I knew how to play that song. I was about to say Smoke on the Water.
Yeah, everybody.
That's the one. Everybody knows.
Give me that rhythm. What do you? I don't. Maybe I know it. Maybe I don't.
It's the ba 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 ba
okay.
ba 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 ba.
But it's like the stuff that I knew. I think not at the time. I didn't know. I always thought like it's weird because when I hear in the music and the guitar, it's so different. That's because the parts that I knew were like the bass line. So I would know how to play the bass, but I didn't even know that that's what it was. I was just like, I know how to play it. I know that this part is in the song, but I barely ever hear it. It's weird. Yeah, it's the bass line.
I would say, and it sounds like you have a good grasp of it, but ignore the people who complain about that kind of stuff, because I think you're working at a much higher level. It reminds me of, and this is going to sound like a really disconnected idea, but have you ever seen the movie Lost in Translation with Bill Murray, where he's in Tokyo? So there's a funny scene where he's doing an advertisement commercial for a whiskey brand. And the director is like, they do a take, and the director is just going off about like, oh, this you're supposed to bring up these emotions, and this is this, and then he's trying to talk all poetic and give too much information, and then the translator just says, yeah, we're just going to go again. He's like, are you sure? He said he talked more about that, and you realize that there are details that when you throwing the most accurate and the most astute, sort of like you're saying, like the academia sort of thing, is not the point. Communication and enjoyment is the most important thing. But I do love how you sneak in some educational things. Like, you always seem to have a really good balance of just telling people, okay, here's a term, here's what it means in plain English, and then you go on. Like, I remember you were talking about was it ostinato?
Ostinato.
With the Hollywood style, as you call it, which I think is perfect. It's like, why do they sound similar? And you describe what that is, and so it's I think people, you got to put the link, Rory, for the Bazel thing.
Yeah.
But I think I want people to at least give your videos a shot, because I think it's super educational and fun. It's just really fun to hear that put into words. It's like, yes, that's it. And one of the things I was going to ask you about is, so you've done a few videos, I noticed, where you said that you've never heard the song before, or you have never faced, let's say, a boss in Monster Hunter or Dark Souls, but you're going to listen to the theme, and then you sort of just, what do I get from this musically? And it's almost always like a carbon copy for what it's like in the game. And, it's like as intended. Do you prefer to do those versus things that you're really familiar with, or are they just cool in different ways?
Honestly, I started doing that with Bloodborne, because I've never played Bloodborne, and I started listening to the songs and trying to guess what the song is about and trying to figure out what it means. And honestly, I like it. I like it more than
when you already know.
I guess I'll say, when I already know. I like it more, and people seem to like it a lot as well, because I started doing videos on Bloodborne, and I was telling myself, I have to play this game. It's a classic. Everybody likes it. I have to play it. But people started enjoying so much that I haven't played the game, and I can guess certain things. For example, in the Lady Maria theme, there's a very, very obvious classical music cadence that they keep repeating, and it's almost cartoony how classical music like it sounds. So I looked at that and I said, well, sounds like classical music. I guess Maria is a classy lady. And people in the comments were like, whoa, I can't believe he guessed that just from the song. So people like it. So I guess I will keep away. I don't want from playing.
Yeah, I don't want to discourage you from playing Bloodborne, because it's such a really good game. But I got to admit, I really, really enjoyed you going through Gurman's theme, The Last Hunter or First Hunter. That, right. Because that's one of my favorite tracks, and it's like, it was quite beautiful how you were able to pick up on pretty much the entire story behind the character just from the notes, and it just shows that the composers are just, they're doing the right things. They're just nailing it.
It's actually one of. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Davi.
No, I was just going to say that all the genius and the skill that you see in my videos is just the composers. I'm just looking at the songs and giving my interpretation of them. But almost all of the songs I listen to in the channel are just by legendary composers, and they have a lot of skill. It's
like one of the things that impresses me is just how well you're able to really articulate that stuff, and to the point. And I would even say that I think it's more interesting the fact that you don't know what is there and you're able to, like, that is just completely fascinating. And when I was watching some of your videos, I was like, I've listened to this music probably like 1,000 times. Never once has any of the things that this man has said ever crossed my head. And I'm just like, how's that even possible? It's so weird.
Yeah, people seem to like that style of video a lot as well. I think I'll keep from playing Bloodborne a little more, so I can make more of those.
Yeah, you should make a couple more, but you should definitely play Bloodborne as well. But I was also wondering, like, do you already have a PlayStation? Aren't those like prohibitively expensive in Brazil?
Yeah, I have a PS4.
Okay.
I probably won't be getting a PS5 anytime soon because
I can imagine.
Yeah,
it's a unicorn.
But yeah. I have a Switch, I have a PS4, but yeah, you are correct. It's very, very expensive here in Brazil, unfortunately.
Yeah, so when people complain about in the U.S. about, oh my gosh, games are $60, they're going to be $70 now, and all of us from different countries are just laughing and crying at the same time, because it's like, even in Japan, people are surprised. They think that games in Japan are like cheaper because, you got Japanese games are made in Japan. I'm like, you don't understand. When we want to buy a Final Fantasy game, the standard cost for like Final Fantasy 13 was $110 when I bought it, and that's for a game, because the Square Enix charges about $100 for their games here. Most games are like 80, 70, 80, but they're even worse in Brazil though. Like it's like the exchange rates are not very nice.
You guys know how much I paid for my Switch. I have to save up for it because a Switch cost me literally a full month of living expenses.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I remember when I was there, because I've been to Brazil a couple of times, and I remember this was during the Vita days, and the Vita was like 4,000 reais or whatever the hell it was, and I'm just like, I remember looking at it and I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. The price of this thing is just like not even within the realm of reason in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, a lot of us, you know what a lot of Brazilians do? They actually buy tickets to go to like the US, and they buy the console there. And the whole thing, the trip and the price of the console is actually cheaper than buying in Brazil.
Wow. That's horrible. Gosh.
Yeah. I've heard about those stories, how people would like buy a ticket to go to the US to buy like an iPhone or something, and then come back, and it would still be way less than buying it there.
Yeah.
So I think before because I definitely want to pick your brain about you and Monster Hunter in particular, but I think before we get there, we got to there's some questions I have, and just I would love to hear about sort of the making of Davi Vasc. But I love that you were talking about your passion for music and the pressure to get a real job, so to say, with quotes, real job. And how you tried university and it just wasn't for you. So I was going to ask, so you've had a passion for music your whole life. You wanted to compose music, and you composed music, but then you said, okay, well, I got to go to a university, and you chose computer science of all things. Was it really just a matter of I like games, money, so why not?
Yeah, that was absolutely it. And I feel no offense meant to people that like computer science. Of course, there's a lot of people that legitimately like it, and
I have a degree in computer science. I'll have you know.
Yeah, exactly.
This is why he runs the podcast, not me.
Yeah, but keep going.
But I feel like computer science is a course that a lot of people go into when they don't know what to do, because it has to do with computers. Has computers in the name, and nowadays everybody like plays a game or has a phone, so everybody's like, well, I like computers, so people just go into computer science. I've seen that happen a lot. When I was at university, I saw that a lot, and that's exactly what happened to me.
Oh my God, you're so right. That's exactly what I did. I never even thought about it like that, but you're absolutely right. I had no idea what I wanted. I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll make video games.
Are you serious?
I am serious. I mean, a part of me was also because, like, at the time I was super into like Blizzard games, and I had like this dream, this very far away dream. One of these days I could be working at Blizzard, it'd be so amazing. But it's like, now that I really think about it, I think that a big part of me, I actually did not know what I wanted to do, and there is that pressure to make a choice. And I was like, well, computers are familiar. I know how to work with computers, so I'll just do comp sci. I never thought about it like that. You just blew my mind.
Well, you are a rare case, Ruri, because I'll tell you, at least here in Japan and even in America, whenever I go back and I talk to people, as someone who did not go to university and graduate, high school, represent. So it's really interesting how many people work in professions that have nothing to do with what they went to college for. Like absolutely nothing. You go
Yeah,
places
here
and it's
in
like,
Brazil
yeah,
it's the
we're
same.
developers or something, and they're like, yeah, I studied I don't know, like I was a sous chef or something. I'm like, what? It's like completely or like something completely unrelated.
I still work with computers, so there's that.
Yeah, so I was gonna say you're the rare case. You actually utilize the skills of your major.
A little bit.
Your happy degree, not your major degree.
I took a while to understand it.
Yeah, it's a bad joke.
But I went to computer science and it went really, really badly because in the first semester I failed almost every grade, and I was like, okay, that was bad, but it can't get any worse. Let's work our way up. And then on the second semester, G rank. In the second semester, I failed every grade. So at that point, I knew I had to be honest with myself a little and try something that I enjoyed, or at least could tolerate. Because failing every grade just means that you really not into it.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the whole idea of academics, it's a double-edged sword, right? You got if you fail, it could be one because you've got other things going on, you don't have the time to dedicate to it, but it's generally an indicator of lack of interest or lack of interest in the format, right? Like the whole lecture hall thing versus like more hands-on.
I think that it's like this is a rabbit hole that I can just like dive deep into and speak for like hours and hours. But in my opinion, I just think that education all around the world right now is completely atrocious. Like even as someone that actually graduated from college, I can tell you that like I actually did things in my college that I knew were wrong. Like I gave answers that I knew were factually incorrect because the teachers were teaching based on stuff from like 5 years ago. And I'm like, come on. This is comp sci. You can't be teaching me stuff from 5 years ago. That's completely ridiculous. But yeah, I knew what they were doing, and I had to basically do tests and give wrong answers. That's how bad the education system is.
So backpedaling a little bit. So like before university, I'm curious at what age you started. You made I don't know if you made the band or you were in the band Fearless, but you were playing guitar in a band, right?
Yes.
I told you he does deep
7.
on you, dude.
I was 17 when I started on the band, I think. Maybe earlier. So that must have been 2010.
Wow. So did you just pick up the guitar when you were younger? Or was it just an instrument that called to you? Why the guitars, or was there any other instruments?
The first instrument that I learned was the harmonica because my dad used to play it around the house, and so it was the harmonica. The guitar I picked up when I was about 12, and I started playing and I was in a bunch of different bands, and then when I formed Fearless with my brother, that's when that was the first band I got a little serious, that things started to look a little better, and there was expectation of making some money from it, and we actually made a little bit of money from it.
Yeah, I was so intrigued by. I don't know if this is something we would want to even talk about on the podcast because it's unrelated, but you mentioned something that was really interesting that you were on, and I actually think that this is if you are a believer of destiny or whatever. I think we're only here right now because of where we've come from, right? So it's like the good stuff, the bad stuff, all the little forks in the road. If one thing was different, you would be in a different career, a different place in life. And I think you were close to getting signed by a record label. You guys.
Yes, and that was a catalyst in my life that eventually led me to become a composer for games, because it was a major disappointment in my music career, because you guys remember Christopher Lee, the actor. He was on Star Wars. He was Count Dooku on Star Wars and
Dracula.
Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings. He was Saruman. I don't know if you guys know this, but he was actually a musician as well. He had a music career. He was a singer.
Oh, I did not know that.
I think I've seen a documentary about that part of his life. I think I'm not sure, but yes.
Yeah, he was a singer, and long story short, we met his agent, and that's when we were able to get involved with a record label, which was his record label. His agent showed our music to him, to Cristopher Lee, and he liked it. He liked our music, and he wanted to participate in our album, because our album was kind of a concept album thing, and he was going to do some narrations and sing in some tracks. So it was amazing, right? It was one of those fairy tale band stories that we get picked up by this big label, and there's this big artist that wants to collaborate with us, and we spent 2 years working on this album and going over the paperwork with the record label, and it was a dream, it was a dream. So when the time came for the album was pretty much finished. When the time came for Cristopher Lee to record his parts, he was I remember this email like it was yesterday. He was busy with The Hobbit 3. So his agent said he's busy with The Hobbit 3. As soon as he ends with Hobbit 3, we're gonna record. But then after a while he got sick. After he was done with Hobbit 3, he got sick, and then shortly after he passed away. So we couldn't. We were devastated, of course, because not only we wouldn't get his parts in the record, but also we grew fond of him, because it was a big deal for us. He felt kind of like a grandpa for us in a way, because he believed in our music and wanted to bet on us, and with him passing away, the record label was not anymore confident in just putting the money just on us. The big name was no longer there, so the deal was off as well. So this was.
But like you said, it's amazing how things work out, right? That's a catalyst for what eventually I would assume that you're very happy doing what you're doing, because I certainly feel that.
The being a game composer was my dream from the start. I just didn't know how to do it, and I didn't have enough. I guess I want to say frustration, but I guess motivation. I didn't have enough fuel to go after it, because it's such a mysterious industry. From the outside, it seems so hard to get into, and it is in some aspects. So we got super sad and depressed. The band almost ended after that. The album didn't come out for like 8 years because we were so shattered by this. But after a while, I recovered and started to think, I had this giant of an artist, which is Cristopher Lee. If any of you guys don't know about Cristopher Lee, look up later on, a biography of his life. He's one of the most incredible and interesting men that ever lived. This guy, this giant of an artist, he believed in me and my music, So, and not just him, but all the people around me that are cheering me on and believing in me. And at that moment, I have the realization that I have to honor that, and I have to take this as far as I can. So here I am today, and like you said, it's what I wanted to do from the start, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
So let's say, speaking of catalyst, I think the beginning catalyst has to be you getting the Super Nintendo when you were 3. So
yeah.
So props to the parents for getting that. But what were some of your earliest gaming memories? Like, what games did you play? I noticed you had like Mega Man X on your shelf, which I like. And I grew up on. I like to say that I grew up on Chrono Trigger
and Super Mario RPG. So, and it's two of my favorite composers as well, which is Yasunori Mitsuda and Yoko Shimomura. But also a lot of Capcom as well, because my first game that I ever owned in my life was back from the times you guys remember when Capcom used to do all the Disney games.
Yeah.
Back in the Super Nintendo era, and I got the first game my parents ever gave me was a Mickey one. I think it was called Magical Quest, starring Mickey Mouse, and oh my god, the music is just a simple platformer, but it's Capcom, you know, so the music is just has no business being just as amazing as it is. So I grew up on that, and Mega Man X, as Gaijin said. So those were some very formative years and very good influences that I had.
Rory, did you have a Super Nintendo growing up?
Yeah, you're gonna pour salt in the wound. I'm pretty sure you.
Oh, sorry. Oh.
It's like no. What happened with me, for anyone that doesn't know, is like I was able to hassle my parents to get me like in Europe it was called the Mega Drive, but it was basically the Genesis.
Here too, in Brazil too. Yeah.
So I had a Mega Drive, and then after that, my parents were like, we're not buying you any more consoles because you can't work on them, so we'll buy you a PC instead. So I missed out on Super Nintendo and everything all the way up until the Wii, which is when I was like financially independent, and I was like, I want to buy a console, god damn it, and I'm buying a console. I don't give a damn. And I bought a Wii.
Yeah, but as a Mega Drive owner, we got to enjoy blood in our Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Or Super Nintendo. People did not. They had sweat coming off. And we had Kid Chameleon. Did you ever play Kid Chameleon?
No.
A lot of people
I was like,
haven't.
I feel like I remember the name.
It's like when
my older brother got the Super Nintendo. I was the Genesis.
When it came to soundtracks in the Genesis, for instance, like the one that instantly comes to mind is Streets of Rage. You ever heard the soundtrack to Streets of Rage?
Oh, yeah.
Davi? It's awesome.
Yeah.
So good.
And the Mega Drive or the Genesis, it had the different consoles back in the day had different sound chips.
Yeah.
So they all sounded different, and each one of them had a personality, you know. So it's so much fun to listen to like Streets of Rage in the Mega Drive or Genesis, and Streets of Rage on the Super Nintendo, and see how each console, the personality of the sound of each console is really cool.
Another one that I can also remember in terms of like really distinctive audio was the Commodore Amiga. Like I had friends that had Amigas. I've never had one. You guys ever heard of that one?
What? I don't know.
Commodore Amiga was like a personal computer. And it would basically work off a disc. So you'd have a game, you'd put the disc in. But Commodore Amiga would have like these really guitar sounds when you wouldn't really have those like on a regular PC. So they also had like a really cool thing going on when it came to audio. I was just curious if you guys had tried that or not. Yeah.
So I guess this might be a good time to jump off because I'm curious about something now that we were talking about retro stuff, which is there's that phrase and the way of thinking that says that, you know, and I totally agree with this, that restrictions breeds creativity. Like it's when you have, whether it's a time restriction or, you know, a tool restriction, like whenever you have to think out of the box is usually when you do some of your best work. And I know back in the day, like you're saying the sound chips and everything, there was more restrictions with music and how many tracks can we have on the same thing and stuff like that. So people had some really creative ways to make some really complex music. Does that still exist? I'm a little naive when it comes to like current day video game composition, but are there still restrictions in place that can sometimes either be a good thing or a bad thing?
Yes, but not nearly as many as we had back in the day. But nowadays we still have restrictions on file size and time of the loops. But sometimes the restrictions can come from the game design itself. So sometimes the game requires some kind of dynamic music, some kind of interactive music, and then restrictions can come from that, from having to adapt to the game and having to respond to what the player is doing. But nowadays it's certainly much better than it was before. Yeah. And of course, a lot of indies nowadays also emulate those restrictions, right? For the nostalgia. So
yeah.
I guess we
self-imposed,
miss,
right?
Yeah, we miss some of that restriction.
The chip tunes, I love some of those. Some like
yeah.
Have you ever heard like Hotline Miami? It's not really chip tunes, but they do some really creative stuff. Hotline Miami is pretty cool with that.
Yeah, and the indie scene is full of that kind of stuff. I'm just composing right now, and this one I can talk about. Composing for a game called Koromon, which is a monster taming like game, kind of like Pokemon.
It's really cute. I love your work on that. I was listening to a lot with those tracks that you have.
Yeah, and we were going for kind of a Nintendo DS era kind of sound, so that's another self-imposed kind of limitation that helps us in a way to get more creative and work within that limitation.
Koromon. Yeah, it was really interesting going through some of your previous works, because you have these great like guitar based interpretations. You've got your band music from the past, but then when you go and you look at some of your stuff, you've got like Cute Terror, you've got Koromon, you've got all these like you have a really good taste for the cute and more almost like fantasy medieval, like I don't know if it's Celtic or what, but it's like the adventure type of music, right? The stuff that makes you feel like you're in a video game.
Right. Yeah, I like kind of guys like Grant Kirkhope as well, the composer for Banjo-Kazooie, David Wise as well for his Donkey Kong stuff. So I like a lot of quirky, cartoony and adventurous music, yeah. And I've kind of unintentionally, I guess, you start getting more work that is related to what you do best, because you do a job and you do it very well, so other people will hear that. Yeah. So you one funny thing that I tell people is that I used to tell myself, wow, it would be really cool if I could score music for an RPGs a day, for an RPG someday. And now it's pretty much all I do.
Fortified lands and
all
the realms of magic, all these like you get to go into dark fantasy. I saw with was it Veil of Stars or whatever it was called. I can't quite remember the name, but you've got all these like great fantasy like RPGs now in your repertoire. I'm kind of curious, like is there one genre that you haven't done that you would love to work with?
There was one, and I just got a gig that is that genre. It was like December, and it was tactical RPGs like Final Fantasy Tactics and Advance Wars. I love Advance Wars, and I got a gig, and they already announced it, so I can talk about it as well. I'm composing music for a game called Lost Construct, which is like a tactical RPG like Advance Wars, and there is another kind of genre that I played a lot in my childhood, which is point and click adventures. That I haven't done yet, like Monkey Island, that kind of game. Yeah, I would love to do one of those.
Music that is one of the things I like about your compositions personally is that something about modern day like games, at least the ones that I play, because there's so many games these days, right? That you're only when you speak, it's only based upon your little sliver of exposure. But I think it's the big Hollywood titles. I don't know, like the big AAA titles. But it's one of the disappointments about some of the more modern compositions to me is how it's just more ambient and more just, there's not a strong melody. And that's why I like Uematsu, from previous Final Fantasies and stuff, because he's not afraid to embrace like a melody, right? And run with it. Because that's what sticks with you, right? Like you don't remember like all the melodic, wonderful ambient sounds and of the games you love. You don't sing those to yourselves in the shower, or hum them out. So
the problem with AAA is that they not all AAA, but some AAA, they try to appeal to too many people. So the problem with a melody that you said, Gaijin, a melody, the problem with it is that it's definite. It has a personality. A melody is a definite thing. So there's more possibility that some people won't like it. Some people will find it annoying. So it's safer to go the ambient route, because that will mostly do its job of providing emotion, providing a certain vibe for the game, and it will it's very likely that it won't be annoying and it won't be disliked by anyone. So
go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask, like, because the way that you guys are talking about this topic, and I know that I'm a little bit when it comes to music, I'm a little bit illiterate, but it's like I was thinking about it, and the way that you were describing this particular problem, to me, it sounds like something that I tend to say a lot, which is if you make a video game for everyone, you're essentially making a video game for no one, which can work on some cases, but in a lot of cases, I find that video games that shoot for something specific, when they land, it hits a lot harder. And I was wondering if you feel like in music, it's kind of like the same way in your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing. And it's interesting to observe that the games that have that kind of safe music that I talked about are usually the games that have the safe game design as well. The game design and music are they're very intertwined. The purpose of game music is always to serve the game design, so they will always be kind of intertwined.
Oh God, it's like I just gotta pick like a couple of tracks of 14, and then just have you like react to them and tell me what you think of it.
Oh, I'm in for it. Some people, I sometimes I do live streams and I open to the chat so they can suggest tracks.
I wish I can join one of those. It's the time zones. It makes it impossible.
No, I can. Time usually is not a huge problem for me. I will talk later, Gaijin. I swear, I promise you, I'll make a live stream
just for you, Gaijin.
Just so you can. Exactly. I will. And I think in one of the live streams, someone suggested a 14 song for me, and I listened to it, and it was very good. But if you want to do it, Ruri.
Do you remember which music it was? I'm curious which one they did for you.
It was a combat. Let me see. I'll find the video here. And
it's like you don't have to.
While you're looking for that, I gotta preface and talk a little bit about me and music, just so people know that I'm not that musically knowledgeable. When I say that I have a background in music, I just mean that as a child from elementary, my main weapon was the clarinet, and that was my life all the way through high school. Was clarinet. That's what I was really good at, passionate about. I'd practice for 8-9 hours a day. My mom would have to rip me out of the basement bedroom and to go eat, because I'd just be constantly practicing and playing because I loved it, and music was my jam. And I picked up tenor sax in middle school. I was in jazz bands, orchestras, did stuff like that. And so woodwinds is where I come from. And then, of course, I also played flute on the side, because the fingerings for flute and tenor sax are so similar that if you can get the breathing down, it's like, okay, I've got sub weapons now I can use, and it's great. And it's just weird. And one day I just woke up and I didn't want to play music anymore. Like it literally, like one morning, it was sudden. It was just, I had no more drive. And I don't know if that was destiny knocking at my door saying, hey, if you continue down this path, you're going to join a youth orchestra, you're going to join a full orchestra, you're going to be touring, you're going to be a classical player or in a jazz band. Like, that's not what you are meant to go do. So I don't know what it was, but it's just something just killed my interest, even though it was fueled by me. And then I just sort of dropped out of playing music, and then I went and started embracing my dream of going to Japan, and that of course,
to this day you still don't play.
Well, the thing is, I would love to start playing again, but one, as you get older, you realize that time is the most important currency in life.
Absolutely.
And so, as a single father who has to work as well, like, I don't have the time, unfortunately. And plus, one of the problems with Japan, and I think it's a little unfortunate, is there's so many musically, and this is around the world, right? Like, there's so many people and so many kids that have, I don't want to say talent, because talent, that's a subject I actually want to talk about a little bit later, which is like talent versus skill. It's an interesting topic to me, but like there's so many like amazing musicians and composers that are out there and they just don't know it because they'll never get the opportunity to try the instruments that they'll fall in love with, right? So it's all about exposure and what you have access to. And in Japan, it's like sports or anything that requires space, like, like you can't be playing a trumpet in your room, right, if you're in an apartment. So, like it's the families that have money to pay for the private lessons. Those are the kids that get to go on and learn instruments and play. So I imagine there's lots of, wonderful musicians that were never born because they just didn't have the space because everything's so close. So I couldn't possibly practice here. So what some kids do is they'll rent out karaoke boxes and they'll practice their instruments in those because those are all, heavily soundproofed rooms and treated because they have all the rooms and you can't hear the other rooms. Or you'll have people in the parks, like they'll go to the park and they'll find like some trees in the distance where no one can watch them and they'll practice their trombone or something. And it's great, but it's also sad to see because you just remember that like, wow, even if I wanted to learn an instrument, I would need to secure a place and time to play.
Yeah, there's some instruments that you can play with headphones, right? But yeah, you're right. It's not every instrument that has that option.
Yeah, we even had a silent... I regret getting rid of it, but we actually had a sound box because my ex-wife was a violinist. And so we had a sound box, it took up the whole room so she could play and practice violin. And now I'm thinking, I had the perfect sound booth for YouTube, and I got rid of it. But yeah, so like so to me, it's endlessly interesting to hear about chords, anything that's like, like guitar, piano. It's a whole nother end of the spectrum that I'm not versed in. And I find it fascinating is all get out. So Rory probably knows a little bit more about it than I do with your interest in guitars.
Me? About music? No, I don't.
Well,
I played. Didn't you understand what I said? I'm like, I used to know how to play Smoke on the Water. Like, you understand? Listen, here's how that goes. Gaijin is like,
I've played it before. I played it on a bass, believe it or not.
It's like...
I remember in high school when I was a freshman, I think I was in sort of like the what would you call, I don't know if the same social classes in school exist around the world, but I guess you would call them the stoners. So we had our flannel shirts, smoked Marlboros, listened to rock, played Magic the Gathering. Didn't want to go to school, just wanted to chill out and have fun.
The biggest problem for me with guitar was that I wasn't able to do one of the things that you need to do with the fingers, which is using one of the fingers. I don't know what the name of this is, but you use one of the fingers and you press all of the chords. I was never able to do that one properly because
strings with strings with one finger. Yeah.
I could never do that ever, and I was like, "Yep, I'm never going to be able to play guitar," and I gave up.
You just need to pull your finger really hard.
I know.
Every day for 30 minutes, so you can make them long.
It's like this. I've been a guitar teacher as well. So, and this is a wall for a lot of people. I forgot how this is called in English. Yeah, I forgot. But anyway, you have to make your finger like this, and you have to press really hard with your thumb on the neck of the guitar. So people get pains here, on this part of the hand. And this is a wall for a lot of, especially young kids that they don't have a lot of strength in their hands yet. But it is just a matter of just literally building the physical and strengthening the physical muscles in your hand. Yeah, and so it becomes easy later.
Yeah, so if you guys are out there trying to learn guitar and you're having problems, this is a birth of rite passage that you're going through.
Yeah.
The same thing happened with woodwinds. We'd have a thing where, you'd bite down on your lip when you play clarinet, and you'd end up bleeding on your bottom lip if you played for too long because your teeth are biting into your bottom lip. And then the reed, the thickness is how hard you need to blow in to get a sound. And if you want to get really nice lower or very high pitched sounds, you need a very tough reed. But it's pretty much like you're wheezing, like the pressure that you have to put behind is crazy. So like you can tell how much someone practiced and had that muscle, because you'd be like, hey, what number can I borrow a reed, or like, do you have an extra reed because mine broke? And you're like, oh wait, you're still playing on a 2.5? Wow, okay, that's pretty soft, like, okay, you don't play a lot because the muscle just isn't there. And then if you're like, no, I play a 3 or 3.5, you're like, oh shit. Wow, okay,
I remember when it came to brass, I remember that was one thing that blew my mind, and that was at one point I was watching like a documentary about some really good. I don't know if it was trumpet. I think it was trumpet, but it's like these guys were like masters, and when they blew into the trumpet, like their cheeks would like puff up like a freaking puffer fish. I was like, what? Like they looked like completely different person. Like, and I was like, Jesus Christ. That blew my mind that it actually like would deform someone's face to basically do that so often. Like that's how dedicated people are to their craft.
Yeah. So David, were you able to find the track?
Yes, I was just going to say that. It's As the Sky Burns. Do you know it?
As the Sky Burns. I probably do, but
I think it's...
Go ahead.
I think it's from a boss or something. As the Sky Burns, or As the Heavens Burn, I guess.
As the Heavens Burn. Oh, okay.
Oh, I can't be reading this. That's a spoiler, but
that is a spoiler.
Scenario Dustin.
Yeah. Don't look at that.
I immediately turn it. I closed the browser. I just so you know, Davi, I just got Rory's been trying for over a year since I got to know him. Probably the first word he said to me was, "Play Final Fantasy 14."
Don't lie like that.
No, but I've recently gotten to Final Fantasy 14, so I'm dodging spoilers from the last 7.5 years, 8 years, and it's really funny.
Right. Yeah, I've been seeing your tweets. You have a cute little girl character.
Yes. She's a little girl, and she's the greatest warrior in the land, and she will hack away and save the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm role playing this time. I'm not playing as myself, which is kind of fun. To make a character, get some head lore for them, and play as them is kind of fun, because then you want to nurture the character, right? And be like, okay, I'm going to take her on an adventure. She needs some money in her account. We got to get her rich. And it's, I don't know if it's a father thing or if it's other people do that in video games as well. But I like the difference between the role play, because like this is me, or this is a persona of me that I don't get to do in real life, or you have like this is an original character. Like, do you have a preference when you play games? Like, what do you like to do?
I alternate between me and my fiance. She doesn't play a lot of games. She plays some games, but she's not super hardcore, so she doesn't play like Monster Hunter. But every time a new Monster Hunter game comes out, we sit down to make the character together. And so we keep alternating between a character based on me and a character based on her. So like for Rise, for example, I'm playing with a character based on her. So we keep alternating like that.
That is pretty cool. I just listened to the track while you guys were talking, and I know exactly what track it is. Did you like it?
Yes. Yeah. It had some... The stream was a while ago, so I won't remember everything, but I remember it had some Middle Eastern things in it. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
So here's I'll drive this into a little thing. So you grew up, you loved music, you loved video games. You had interest in guitar. I didn't realize that your brother was in the band. Where did you get the name Fearless for the band? Is there an interesting story behind that?
No. At least I don't know. I didn't come up with the name, so maybe the reason I don't know. Yeah. But no, not that I can think of.
But I was kind of curious, at what point was it after you dropped college that you met Tom Hess, or was it during or before? Because that seems like that's another major point in your career, so to say.
That was after. Yeah, because I dropped off and I was kind of lost, didn't know what to do, and that was about the same time the Christopher Lee thing happened as well. So I was super depressed and didn't know what to do. So yeah, I met Tom Hess, which was a mentor of mine. For those of you guys that like heavy metal, he was the guitar player for Rhapsody of Fire. So he mentored me and in music business stuff, and I owe a lot to him. He was a very important step, a very important milestone in my journey.
Yeah, I always find it fascinating. It's like a lot of us, not all, but a lot of us have, those influential people that we just happen to meet and brush with that sort of set us off on a slightly different direction or help give us clarity and stuff like that. Because I was actually just listening to in prep for this podcast, because I normally don't prep for podcasts, but you're special, so I did. But I was listening to a stream of Tom Hess talking with music theory expert, Tomasa Zilio, but they were talking about the idea of music theory and why and how it can be a roadblock for creativity for some people, because they don't realize that it's a tool set. It's just some, it's a good fallback just if you don't know what to do next. Music theory will teach you where you can explore, but it's not rules. Like, rules are meant to be broken. It's a well-defined, generally will work type of way of approaching stuff, but not the hard law. And it was really interesting. So I wanted to get your take on that. Like, music theory is important, but, do you start with music theory, or is that something that you start to develop after you just sort of dibble-dabble and get into composing, or how does that work usually? Because I obviously haven't composed anything, but I'm kind of curious.
Music theory is important. I see a lot of people making a divide between... I saw a tweet about this just the other days, because I follow a lot of music people, and someone was saying they had... knowing what sounds good is better than music theory, like a major sign like this. Knowing what sounds good is better than music theory. And I was like, that's what music theory is for, to tell you what sounds good when you can't figure it out with your ears. And it's a tool, like you said, it's a tool. You're not supposed to follow it. The hammer doesn't tell the construction guy where to beat the nails, just a tool that makes his work easier. So I think it's important. A lot of people like to say, because this is a question that is asked a lot of people like to say that it's not important, that you don't need it, that what's important is creativity and doing what sounds good. I think it's important, but I also think it's important to know that you don't have to follow it as a rule.
Yeah.
It's important to know it exactly so that you can know of fun and interesting ways to break the rules.
Yeah, I kind of think of it like language, right? Like as you start out, you need to learn how to express yourself, and language and gives you the tools to do that. But then as you get proficient, then you can bend and twist as needed. And sometimes, like you called out in some of the Monster Hunter videos, like, okay, now that is really weird what they did. Like, you normally would not do that. Like, whoa, okay. And that's why it stands out, is so unique, is like they're just turning the rules upside down.
And something interesting to notice is, notice in my videos, every time I notice something like that, oh, whoa, this is wrong. This was not supposed to be here. I always do that with excitement and with admiration. because it's difficult to do that. It's difficult to break the rules and make it sound good, because it's what I said. Music theory, it's just a map that tells you what sounds good. And of course, if you just follow the map, it's gonna sound boring. So you have to go out a little bit and do some things that are wrong so that it sounds a bit more interesting.
I think in a way, when you do that and you actually step out of, you know, the stuff that sounds right, you get a very interesting contrast in some tracks. That it's just like, okay, so this is very disturbing, and then suddenly it's like, and now there's this kind of like comeback to it, and those are like tracks that I tend to be particularly biased towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like how you bring up like the dissonance, like when you have like notes that don't belong together, put together to create this just really, like just this off, disturbing feeling inside that it's hard to describe. It's like.
Yeah, and Souls game and Bloodborne specifically does that a lot. They just do stuff that is wrong all the time just to piss you off, to make you disturbed.
So
rattle the cage a little.
Let me tell you a bit of a secret. There's a boss in Dark Souls 3, and I saw a video on this, and it was completely fascinating. So there's a specific boss in Dark Souls 3, which is the Dancer of the Boreal Valley. And it's a boss that threw off a lot of Dark Souls veterans because they would get to her and they would die. And a lot of people wouldn't understand why that particular boss felt so hard. So someone went in there and they started analyzing the musical track of the boss. And it's like, it seems that a lot of the bosses in Dark Souls, they would work in a way, and this is something that is very like subconscious to a lot of people, I think. But it seems that a lot of bosses, like the music would have a rhythm to it that would almost tell you like the rhythm in which you had to fight the boss. Like, okay, now we got to dodge. Now we got to attack. It's not a rhythm game. Everybody knows that. But it's like it gives you kind of like the beat of the boss. And
the flow of the battle,
yeah. In that particular boss, they screwed with it on purpose. So they put the music in a different flow of the boss. And apparently people found that a lot harder than it should have been because of that. I remember that I struggled a lot dodging the attacks of that boss, and I could never figure out why. Because, like, I can dodge most attacks fine, but this goddamn Boreal Valley moves in a way that it just, like, gets me every time. And it turns out that a part of that is because the subconscious part of your brain is, like, listening to the music and adapting to it through the music, and the music threw you off, and I was like, what?
Wow.
That's
so
crazy.
if you guys heard it, if you're having problems with the boss, just mute the television and you'll probably have a bit easier time.
I was just about to say that. It's the same thing with the Raging Brachydios theme. It has a ton of strange temporal divisions. How do you say in English? I guess it's temporal divisions. Strange rhythms and stuff like that with the tempo.
Yeah.
I got one comment in my video where I talked about that the guy just turned off the music and he found the fight way easier because the tempo messes with you. It messes with your rhythm.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing that you talked about. What's the name of that boss, Rudy?
Dancer of the Boreal Valley.
Oh, cool. That's a good suggestion for a video, I guess.
But that was a very good one, and it's like in Souls they do so much with the music as well. But Gaijin, we gotta give the people some Monster Hunter, man.
I was just saying the same thing.
I don't want to pull you off
music
track, and it's like
wait, was that a dad joke? Pull you off track?
No. Oh God, not everything
music
is a dad joke. Okay.
Off track music, like okay.
No, wow.
Wow. Okay. Maybe I hear these because I'm a dad joke machine, but like I hear puns when normal people don't.
Yeah,
it took me forever to get that.
Okay, but Monster Hunter. So where and how did you first encounter Monster Hunter? I'm really curious about this.
It was in 2014 with 3U on the 3DS.
Third Fleet podcast, baby.
Third Fleeter.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, so I'm a third fleeter as well, and opposite to the experience of a lot of people, I actually got hooked from the beginning.
Oh wow!
I liked it.
So
Damn.
Yeah,
Damn.
Because
Natural.
I got hooked from the demo. I remember playing
Oh,
the demo,
wow.
and the 3U demo was the
Lagombi
easy
was
quest
in it,
was-
right?
yeah, it was Great Jaggy, the easy quest, and the intermediary was Lagombi, and the hard one was Plesioth.
Yeah.
So I remember.
Oh my god!
Yeah, yeah, and with the underwater combat even. So I looked at that, and I had just gotten my 3DS, and I got my 3DS with Pokemon X and Y. I was super excited to play
nobody's
X and Y.
Damn. Throwing the shade.
Well, no, but
I'm joking.
Just to show you the contrast and how we're thinking. You're thinking, oh well, we all have mistakes. I was just thinking that, you know, like some hunters are born different. Like maybe you were born and the doctor told your mother, congratulations, it's a hunter. You know, it's like you.
Exactly.
but I've actually kind of dropped off of Pokemon nowadays. But anyway,
See, there you go.
Fixed. But anyway, I was super excited for X and Y, and I had just gotten my 3DS, and for some reason that I don't remember, there wasn't any power outlet available, so I had to go to a power outlet in my house that there was nothing around it. So I was just sitting on the ground with my 3DS, and I was just opening it for the first time. I was checking out the eShop, and I saw Monster Hunter, and I saw there was a free demo. So I thought I was just test, you know, the eShop. So I downloaded the demo for 3U, and I looked at this selection of quests, and I said, come on, I'm not a novice gamer, you know. I'm pretty sure I can handle an advanced quest.
Oh yeah.
In this game, you know, I've played Dark Souls. You know, I'm a hardcore gamer.
Oh my
So
god, dude!
I
Wait, that is just such a cool thing, because like I used to have that mentality too. Because like after I beat like Demon Souls, I was like, dude, I'm God's gift to gamers, man. I can beat literally any. I've beaten the hard. It's like what people don't understand is all of this built up difficulty around Dark Souls. Dark Souls is one of the easiest games I've ever played in my life, and people are like, oh my god, it's so hard. No, it's not. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I went in to fight Plesioth with bow. So I just got thrashed. I triple carded, but I liked the game. I liked the graphics, how colorful it was, how real the creatures felt. I liked that a lot. And
This is so weird for me because it sounds like I'm talking to my daughter. I that sounds really weird out of context.
That does sound weird, guys.
Because she started Monster Hunter with a demo, which was the Rise demo, and she immediately went for advanced, well, it was intermediate. She wanted to face Mizutsune, and she also picked up the bow, and she got trashed, but commented about, wow, it's living and breathing, it's so beautiful, and she got into it. So it's like it's just weird just hearing this. Sorry.
So I was like for half an hour fighting this Plesioth. And after triple carding to it, after half an hour, I realized that I was sitting on the ground, hunched over like this. And I was sitting on the ground for so long that my butt was flat and everything was hurting.
Yeah, when you move, it's like...
Yeah, exactly. But the game just happened to be on sale at that moment. So
wow.
I just bought it. And the beginning was slow when I got to the actual game. But I also didn't mind that because I just kind of love slow, boring games. I grew up on Harvest Moon, you know, so I actually kind of miss a little bit, and that some people will probably say this is blasphemy, but I kind of miss that kind of slow side of Monster Hunter, you know, gathering. I know a lot of people.
You're not
don't
the
like
only
it,
one. No, actually, you would be surprised. You'd be surprised because I've been talking about that a lot in my channel about how, like, for instance, in Rise, we've kind of lost a little bit of that preparation aspect where, it's something as simple as, like, for instance, there's no hot and cold drinks. It's like, well, yes, but that was an immersion thing. You had to prepare. And there's more, obviously, because like, did you have a farm in 3 Ultimate? I forget. Did we have a farm?
Yes.
I think we did. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like the farm is gone as well. We no longer. I mean, there's like the tree that grows forever or whatever in World, and there's you can just send the submarines in the other one. But the farm was special because you had those things in between the hunts. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go do a little bit of mining, a little bit of planting things and whatnot. And the Palicos are here managing everything. It was cool. I completely agree. And there's actually a lot of people that feel the same way. So it's not like most people don't care about it. There's a significant amount of people that do care.
I've been thinking about this for a while because me and my daughter are the opposites. Like, she can't stand tedious stuff like that. I love it. To me, it's like almost therapeutic. You know, you have enough noise online and work and everything that it's nice to do something mundane. I know that sounds really like I'm insulting it, but it's not. It's actually it's meditative almost. You know, just mining for ores and getting it, and it's soothing. You know, it's like deep breathing. So I think it would be cool if they introduced it where they bring back the farm, and if you want to engage with the farm and the actual hands-on of it, you get a higher like efficiency for items. But if you just want to do it through menus, you can do that as well. You just don't get any bonus items for not doing the manual labor. I think that would be a solution.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I have hopes for Monster Hunter 6, whatever the name is, because I think we can all agree that the next step will probably be open world, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, I would have guessed the same. Yeah, considering
it's
it would be high end platform, they connected the areas. Now let's really double down, right?
And open world games inevitably get a lot of downtime, right? Because you're bridging the gap from when you accept a quest, you get a loading screen, and then you appear on the place. Open world, you have to bridge that gap, so it would include a lot of downtime, I think. So I think there will be more room for that quiet, slow side of Monster Hunter again, I think.
So what was the first weapon you tried, and what was your first main weapon? And were they the same?
On the demo, the first one I tried was bow, but on the actual game, the first one I tried was longsword.
Oh, no, I'm leaving.
You're a man after Rory's heart. Oh my God, turn that chair around. I don't want to see that PlayStation branding. Ugh. Make me want to throw up. No.
Rory.
Why would you do this to me?
I'm not a longsword main though.
Okay,
that was the beginning.
God. Okay.
That was the unreformed Davi. That was the Davi of the past. So
what is your passion weapon?
Yeah, I nowadays I mained, and even back on 3U I started maining hunting horn.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. I don't know why. People say that.
Music composer doing.
So I'm actually curious though, because like there's I mean I assume you've been maining hunting horn ever since, right? Since 3U, I would imagine.
Yeah, I play a lot of weapons, but maining, it has been hunting horn.
So how do you feel about the changes that it took in Rise? Because I've heard there's a lot of mixed opinions there from people that used to main the hunting horn.
When I played the Rise demo, I was so sad. I was so disappointed.
What is it?
And I was actually decided not to main hunting horn anymore on Rise. It was only after I got into the game and I saw that there is that switch skill that lets you micromanage a little bit more the songs, then I was relieved and I mained it on Rise as well. And I think I've never switched that switch skill. It's always on that, I forgot the name, but the one that lets you micromanage the songs.
It's
that
melody mode chord, I think. I think it's melody mode chord.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be really hilarious because that's chords is what you focus on when you're explaining music. is how you communicate emotion through chords.
Yeah. That was okay, and I understand why they did it, but I still think the best iteration of the hunting horn is the hunting horn from Iceborne.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God,
really
is
good.
it? It's so good, and the little twirl, the sticking the ground,
twirl
and
is
spinning
so
around
good.
as a normal move, so good.
It's
and
really good.
I understand. I understand that, you know, long songs with 4 notes. I wouldn't mind if they take that out and kind of streamline the thing a little bit. But the thing with the Rise hunting horn is that, especially on the one that does it automatically, like you kill the weapon, you kill the main thing about the weapon, which is managing the songs. You know, every weapon has its gimmick. If you take that away from hunting horns, it just becomes a hammer with auto buffs. So
you're talking to someone that literally beat one of the harder quests in Monster Hunter Rise with a gun lance without shelling, because that's what they did to my gun lance. That the shelling part is not efficient, so I have to not use it.
Yeah, gun lance is sad, isn't it? Because
I love the way he just said it. It's like, it's just sad. It's like, yeah, it is. You're right.
It's a cool weapon. It's a cool weapon. I tried playing it on, and I did get to play it more on World, but I remember trying to play it on Generations, and it had the
heat gauge.
The gauge, the heat gauge. That was so bad. That was so bad.
That is literally, as far as I can tell, like from all of my knowledge in Monster Hunter, I cannot think of a more punishing mechanic in a weapon than the heat gauge. Because if you mess it up, you basically get minus 20% damage for 2 minutes. It's like, what?
But you know,
it's
Monster Hunter 3,
those,
Oh, go ahead.
It's one of those moments that you think, what were they thinking? Because the weapon was already at the bottom of the damage.
How low can you go?
They're like, it's
in order
not
to
enough.
become the best, you have to become the worst.
We need to make it worse. It needs to be a little bit worse. It's really funny. But yeah. You were saying, Gaijin?
No, I was gonna say Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate is also where I fell in love with the hunting horn as well. And there's one thing that I actually went back recently just to do it because I missed it so much, which was using the hunting horn against Brachydios. It was so good because you didn't have a lot of tools to move around in that fight. And so his pivot, you know, he's pivoting around and boxing you is actually really quite difficult. And the blast hurt quite a bit. But his head is it's like they designed it saying, what would be the perfect height for a hunting horn to use it like a golf club and smack it in the damn face? And that is the horn smacker. That's Brachydios. Like, that's what he's made for. And you don't get that satisfaction in any of the other Monster Hunters. Iceborne sort of brought it back because the impact feeling of the hunting horn was there, and it felt really good. But there's nothing quite like, I was using the Abyssal Lagacurse hunting horn, but man, just smacking stuff in the face with that is so good.
Yeah, and Brachy is one of my favorite fights, actually, and it is my favorite monster.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, so I love that fight. Yeah.
So you must have...
In 3U, Brachy's gun lance was like my favorite gun lance because, like, hey, I can shell and things explode, and then I can make things explode with slime. It's great. This is the best weapon ever.
So, did you get to play against? You played against Raging Brachydios in Iceborne?
I'm facing him right now. I'm at the stage where I faced him a bunch of times because I didn't say this before. I'm playing through Iceborne for the first time now.
Oh, nice.
Oh.
Yeah, so I got to Raging Brachydios and I got defeated. I got triple carded a couple times. And so I farmed a better set with some blast resistance and some comfort stuff to make the fight easier. And I haven't faced him again, but I will soon.
Did you get him in the final phase? And if so, what did you
think
about that?
Yeah, that was crazy. He kind of locks you in that area, right?
Yeah,
that was
so insane.
Crazy. And the music just like goes crazy.
Yeah, they add the choirs to the regular Brachydios theme. It's crazy, but that fight is kind of stressful because he's raging all the time. So and that phase specifically is super stressful. So I'm looking forward to getting it over with that fight.
Nice. That's a good monster. I feel that Bracky has just been getting easier and easier in the series because, again, the movement was always his advantage over the hunter, and now we can move all over. So it's like we need to make Brachydios great again. He needs wire bugs. That's what he needs.
Yeah.
We need him. Yeah. Wire punching people and stuff, like, and getting all anime on us. That'd be funny. So 3U, wow, that's great. I did not know that you were a third fleeter.
Did you?
Even more hardcore is that you
were
into it from the start.
What did you follow up 3U with? What was your next?
4U.
4U. Oh, so you just kept on going from there.
Yeah, because I tried 3U for the first time in 2014, and 4U came out in 15, right? 2015.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So it was the natural progression from then on. It was, or almost the natural progression, because it was 3U, then 4U, then base generations, then world. Then I didn't play Iceborne for a while, and then GU, and then Rise.
Wow. So here's a question for you as a game composer, because this blew my mind when I found out the first time. I thought all the songs and themes were all done by the same composer because they match so well and everything's so cohesive. And then when I found out that there's just like all these different composers doing different themes, it blew my mind. I'm like, what? How did they all come up with the same sound? Like, is that something that you picked up on, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
That's mind blowing to me too. I thought it's normal nowadays to have, especially in a long running series like this, to have, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 composers, and maybe even in the same entry in the same game, like 3 composers. But Monster Hunter has more than that, has a lot more than that. And I like knowing the name of the composers, but it's so hard to keep track of the names with Monster Hunter because there's so many of them. And actually, Gaijin, even before we interacted online and before I had a YouTube channel, I've had a video, it's right here, one of your videos bookmarked here in my browser. Can you guess what video it is?
Is that the one that I made? That was a passion project about the composers of Monster Hunter music?
Yes. I use that video all the time as a reference so I can know who composed what, because nowadays Capcom has gotten better with it. Now for Rise, for example, on the Spotify releases, they actually tell you, they tell you what composers composed each songs. They wouldn't do that before.
Yeah, this was done by Capcom. It's like
so Capcom a person. So and how did you get that information? Because I couldn't.
Yeah, so here in Japan, it's all very. It's never been sort of glossed over, and so like we have lots of references here of who did what, and inserts for albums that were never physically maybe released in the West, and stuff like that. So that information, but even I didn't know some of them. Like I didn't know oh, they did that theme? Like I didn't know because I never really looked into it hardcore on my own. But I think just the fact that it's a Japanese game, I have access to all those resources. So I thought it would be fascinating to put it together, and that's actually one of the videos I enjoyed making more than almost any video in the last few years. I really enjoyed that one. And cool. I was really happy when I saw that a few of the composers sort of reacted to my tweet with that link, which was really nice.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and they saw it and they were happy. But yeah, it's crazy how I think it's like the job of the lead audio composer must be insane. I don't know how you give instructions to different composers and somehow dial that all back in so that it feels like it's under the same umbrella.
Yeah, in AAA development is a little different from what I do. So it's a bit easier for them to control what the final output will sound like. For me, in most indie teams, I do everything, you know. I compose, I produce, I record. So it's my sound that comes out. For AAA, they have the composers. They have an audio lead which will give instructions and artistic direction. They have a music supervisor which does things all the way from making sure the final recordings, you know, the players get the correct scores and stuff like that, and supervising the recordings and stuff. And they have a dedicated audio engineer, so all the compositions of the separate composers will go through the production and the mixing and the mastering of one or a team of guys that will all be, you know, in the same room and have the same ideas and will be trying to achieve the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's for a AAA environment, it's easier to manage these many composers. For indie would be a nightmare.
Yeah. And then one of the things I loved about Rise in particular was the lead audio composer. He didn't do all the songs, obviously. Like a lot of the songs was the composers from. I might actually, you know, that might be a good idea for a video to talk about the music of Rise and who composed what track and group it, because you start to feel and understand the little touch of each artist, because like some of the composers from 4 Ultimate did songs, and then you know, I love Uratani-san and he did a bunch of songs, but the guy who put it together as like the head audio lead, which was Satoshi Hori. It's hilarious because then I was like, who is this? I've never heard of him before. And I looked him up. I'm like, oh, he did lots of composition for Resident Evil 7. I'm like, what? And he busts out with one of the most amazing accomplishment with just like this beautiful different take on Monster Hunter and vocals and Japanese theme. I'm just like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm constantly surprised by Capcom's ability to hire. I don't know how they do it. To find and hire the best guys in the business. It's just a team of legends, all of them.
Yeah.
And I've said that before, but Capcom and Square Enix, they're the top players in the game music today in the industry, and they have a very obvious love and care for video game music, and that shows very much in the choice of composers that they make, because it's obviously very passionate and very skilled composers, all of them.
Yeah, it's crazy. What was it, Steve Jobs, who said like the most important skill is to be able to spot and hire the right people? Like that's the true job, is understanding how to assemble the team, so to say. And it's what I love about Monster Hunter is that, you know, like the composers, a lot of them left Capcom and went freelance, but they still work on the series, like, and they're still involved. And I think they probably split off because they wanted to diversify the type of work that they did. And it gives them that opportunity, but they're still all like really close and they work on the same stuff, and
it shows that it's a good work environment, right? It's a good working relationship, which is good, especially now in the industry with a lot of the stuff that's been going on in the industry. That's a good thing to have.
So what's a Monster Hunter game that you haven't played that you wish you have had, or have you played most of the major ones?
I haven't. I've played most of the. I mean, I haven't played any of the main ones before 3U, but some of the of the side ones that I really wanted to play is the story ones. I've never played Monster Hunter Stories.
Oh, dude, you're missing out. Stories too.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, especially because I like the Pokemon format, right? I think I liked it. The problem is that I like to play a lot of different games. You know, I get tired of the same franchise. So when I'm not playing Monster Hunter, I don't want to be playing this other Monster Hunter that's a little different, you know. So I feel like I'm never in the mood for it, but I absolutely want to play it, especially because the composer for the stories games is Suzuki, Marika Suzuki, which is the lead composer from For You, which is one of my favorite soundtracks of Monster Hunter. So I really want to play it.
Dude, just like so I'm just listening to the main menu theme in my head, like the main theme, dun 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 dun, dun. Like that is really cool.
Yeah, they played that one on the concert, the latest the Monster Hunter concert. That one's really good.
Yeah, I remember when I was at I was physically at the concert where Stories 1 had not come out yet, but they played the main theme song. Even though it hadn't come out yet, and it was like goosebumps. It was so good.
Oh man, I'm so jealous. I wish I could attend to one of those.
I was gonna say like it's kind of a weird tangent to jump off of, but I was thinking like me and my daughter were discussing the other day about VR versus AR versus whatever, and I was like, VR has its applications, but it's more like an amusement ride thing. Like it's niche. You don't always need that full immersion. But I was thinking, why don't they have the best seat on the basketball court, is a camera, and then you can put on your VR set and be in the best seat in the house, and you can look at whatever you want to look at. You can jump on the different ends of the soccer pitch, or you can be at a concert, right? Like the first row, they have a seat with like speakers and a camera, and you can like be there at a concert. Like that could be an interesting application of VR that I would actually buy a VR unit if they did something like that, because the experience of being there in a concert can't be replicated, but there's something about the proximity and the being there in the space of a concert that it's so special.
That to me reminds me of like football, because like obviously both me and Davi from countries that have tremendous affinity to football, and yet I don't actually care for consuming football like on the television. I'm like, nah. But it is like if I go to the stadium, it's completely different. I'm like, hells yeah, dude, let's go.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. I don't even care if my team wins or loses, right? I just want to be there, because you feel the emotion of the stadium. Like it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like if you can't be there physically, can you imagine just like a really good seat in the stadium where you can put on a VR set and be there and like look at what you want to look at, and it's live feed and it's 4K and it's beautiful? Like it's not the same, but it would be pretty cool.
I'll answer that, but Dav, you were going to say something?
You
lost it.
Oh yeah, you said that. No, I remember. You said that when you go to the stadium, you get really pumped. I was just going to say that it doesn't even matter if you don't like the sport or if you don't know the teams. Just being there hyped with everyone else, it's the same thing with a concert. Doesn't matter if you don't know the band or if you don't know the song. You're there, and there's that collective commotion, and it pumps you up. So the VR thing would definitely be an alternative, especially in the times that we live on nowadays.
I'm actually like, I went from being a big fan of VR to not really caring for it as much, because like first time I tried out VR, I was like, I even bought it. I bought like a PlayStation VR headset because I was like, dude, this is the best one, because and to be honest, the PlayStation 1 is the one that's got the most games, actual games, and not experiences, which is what you get on a lot of other headsets, right? But it's like eventually I got there's like two things that completely killed VR for me. One, it's these, because having to wear glasses while you have the headset, it's terrible, because like you put the headset and then the glasses like touch your eyelids, and then your glasses are like all foggy, and then the headset itself gets foggy because it's hot and it like fogs up. So it's like there's all of those problems. But then even after that, the cables is like, no, listen, VR for me in the future is like, listen, it's either no cables or no deal. Like there can't be cables, because like it completely takes you out of the game. You're fully immersed, and then you move and you feel the tether like all over your legs and your arms, and you're wondering, oh my God, am I gonna like yank the console and like all this stuff is gonna come? It takes you out of the experience immediately. And so it's like, I've heard that like PlayStation's working on PSVR 2 or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't think that's gonna be for me because it still has a cable, and I'm like, nah, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna work.
So speaking about technology, here's a question I want to ask you, Davi, because it's something that I'm curious about, and I'm not well versed enough to know if it's even a thing. But have you ever played the game Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice?
No, but I've heard a lot about the audio. There's something special. I don't remember what it is even.
They recorded the whole thing with binaural audio.
Oh, okay.
And so what it is it's a speaker that replicates like the distance and the shape of the human ear. And it's like one of those like visual illusions. What your brain does when it hears audio through headphones that's been recorded that way, your brain thinks that it gets spatial awareness of everything because it's hitting you very similar to how it would if you were there. And so it creates like, I can hear, okay, this voice is from 5 meters away. Okay, this voice is right behind me. This one's right in my ear. This one's in front of me. And there's this crazy spatial audio that they did for that. I've been curious because I experienced that and it was just mind blowing. And I keep thinking, why hasn't the music industry? Why don't we have binaural, like, compositions? Like, can you imagine? Like I can imagine like spatial orchestrating things where like you get like the music coming around your head and swirling and dancing like I don't know how you'd even I know how you'd record it, but like is binaural recording or composing ever been a thing, or what are your thoughts on that?
Not that I know of. Usually I don't even know that much about it. So it's just a regular. You can hear it with any regular.
Yeah, any headphones. Any
okay.
headphones. So like it's just the microphone that they're using is mimicking the shape of, like, they're literally walking around with like ears. They're shaped like ears, and they're recording it. And it's just because they get the voice actors there and they're acting physically around that microphone that you get that recreated sensation that you can't get with stereo. It's a recording technique. I know that PS is trying to do like a virtual version of that with the spatial audio or whatever, but like the actual recording it in binaural is kind of like crazy.
Yeah, I actually don't know, because I was going to say usually the barrier for certain kind of technologies to be implemented is the barrier of people adopting the hardware. But since there's no hardware, since there isn't, I honestly don't know. Even if there's not any kind of trickery of, moving instruments and any kind of gimmick like that, I imagine that just recording it stationary, in front of an orchestra, that alone would probably sound pretty cool. So
yeah, I was saying about that, and then cool. I'm also a huge lover. I love a lot of different music, but one of my guilty pleasures, so to say, has been synthwave and retrowave, and I love that type of. I was thinking, like, can you imagine you have like all these like waves of music that come in and in sequence. You've got like the lower sounds that are recorded underneath your feet, and then you've got like the beat coming in at the top, like a physical sensation. Like someone's got to do that.
yeah.
I don't know how you would do it, but it's technology and music is interesting because music is one of those things that will always be around. It has been around forever.
I think, unfortunately, it's also very much underestimated in the video game industry, like the value of music, because, like you said, a lot of people in AAA, they tend to do the thing where we'll just put something in the background, something that's not too invasive, but like the most memorable ones are the ones that are invasive and are really just like in your face. Like out of all the video game musics that you've heard, which one is like the most the best example of that for you?
The best example of being memorable, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh man. I mean, I'm probably gonna go with my bias and say Chrono Trigger, because like it's an experience that stays with you forever. Everyone that has played Chrono Trigger remembers the music.
Not
and
me.
I
Because I never played it. But yes, keep going.
I feel like JRPGs specifically, or games that are story driven, the music, it stays with you for longer. It marks you. I think because of the relation that I talked about in the beginning of the podcast about gameplay, game design and music. The two are intertwined. So if the game is super deep and it leaves a mark on you, the music stays with you forever as well.
Yeah. So Ruri, to give you all you need to know is the composer that did Soul Sacrifice is the composer who did Chrono Trigger.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that settles a lot of things instantly. Yeah.
That's a game you hear a tune and immediately in the first few notes it's bringing back memories and emotions and it's like
it's just magical.
And you're just like it's an experience and you're like I'm happy I had that experience of having that because I'll never forget it.
A very good example of that is like 14, for instance. When I finished the latest expansion, there's a music in the last zone that I just basically listened to it for like the next 3 weeks every day, at least once or twice. I would listen to that music because it left that strong of an impression. So yeah, it's just so important. I think it's very undervalued in the industry. I feel like. For sure.
Yeah, but I think something that we have to mention as well and something that we have to remember is related to what I said. Again, the music is intertwined with the game design. So we have to remember that not every music, and this is something I talk about sometimes in my channel as well, not every music in a game is meant to be memorable, is meant to stand out and be, fantastic. Sometimes the game requires, and a perfect example of this, in my opinion, is Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Sometimes the game does not need and doesn't want. Yeah, it doesn't benefit from a banger, from a track that you will put on your Spotify playlist, So the game music must serve the game design always. So I have an issue, not an issue, but I feel uncomfortable a little bit doing tier lists of themes. I only did one Monster Hunter one. I probably do more, but I feel kind of because I'm judging songs based on how cool they are, how catchy and how much of a banger they are. And some of these tracks were not meant to be that.
Yeah,
so,
maybe they're widely inappropriate, or maybe they're they actually nailed their purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the track that might be a little bit forgettable. It's exactly what the game needed there. And sometimes I'll be making a tier list video, and I come across one of these tracks, and I have to put it on, and
on the lower,
because you're ripping out all the context, and you're just judging it as a track. It's one of the things that always bothered me about like the point system for reviews for video games is like when they review music, almost always, I don't think I've ever seen a reviewer that's consistently looking at music in that way of saying, okay, you budget yourself in the game. There's certain things that deserve the more attention and budget. You can't just put everything 100% in everything. Music is not always the most important part in some areas. Like, and there's I don't know, and it's like they're whoa, it should have been this and should have been that. I'm like, really? Like there's a functional purpose to that music that you have to consider.
One of the things that blew my mind was this was a Portuguese thing where I was talking to people that were actually from press, because Nintendo would invite people at the end of the year to like have a little get together. And so I remember talking to someone. This was the year where Witcher 3 came out, and I was like, oh, so what are you guys working on your website? And they were telling me, oh, we're working on like the best soundtracks of the year. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. Who are you guys considering? And they're like, oh, we already have the winner and everything. So they just told me who it was. And they're like, Witcher 3 is the winner. And I was like, okay, Witcher 3 is pretty cool. What'd you guys think about Xenoblade Chronicles X? And he gives me a look almost as if like complete dismissal. Like, what is this Japanese trash that you're talking about? And I was like, wow, okay. Because like it seems like a lot of these video games have very like underrated music tracks that nobody really pays attention to, and it made me very sad.
It's like the Game Awards, right? The Game Awards, I call Game Awards Day. I call the composers getting mad day, because they relegate the music awards to the pre-show, and everybody gets mad. Yeah.
It's like one of the most important elements in the entire experience, and it's like, it's the music.
Yeah.
Hey, at least Nier Automata won like the award for best soundtrack in the year it came out. So I was like, all right, okay. At least you finally recognized
some
the
hope,
Japanese
right?
game. Jesus Christ, thank you. And this year it was Nier Replicant that got it. So yeah, Nier's really like getting in there.
What's your guys' favorite soundtrack of the year, by the way?
In terms of video games?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's going to be 14. It's like it's not even close.
See, my problem is that I tweeted about this recently, but I've been living in the year 2013 for the last year or two.
Oh, yeah, Soul Sacrifice.
I realize that every game I've been addicted to in the last year is from 2013. So, like Dragon's Dogma, 2013. Soul Sacrifice Delta, 2013. Tokiden Kiwami, 2013. Final Fantasy 14 debut started in 2013. Like, what the hell is with the year 2000? Monster Hunter 4 was 2013. Like, I was too busy. I missed the fact that it was one of the best years in gaming. So, for me, it has to be Soul Sacrifice. Again, it's one of those things, like, like you start to hear the melody and you almost want to start to cry, because there's stories and feelings that are attached to it, and it's just amazing because the game tells a story through like audio only and words on a page. They don't show you it, so it's actually
some visual stuff in there
a little
as well.
bit, but it's more powerful because you are filling in the visuals in your head, and that's the beautiful part, and you have your own interpretation of what happened, and the music just serves it so well that it's going to be one of my favorite soundtracks of all time, probably.
Right. Mine was Bravely Default 2.
Ooh, because didn't Revo come back to do
Default 2? Came back.
I haven't played it, but I remember the first game, and oh my gosh, the soundtrack was
amazing
so good.
Music. The first game was actually I consider my favorite soundtrack of all time.
Damn.
Because not only is it's good music, but it came out on a very important time in my life, and it was, we were talking about catalyst before. It was the catalyst to motivate me and to push me towards pursuing game music as a career. It was that powerful, So with Bravely Default 2 coming out is just as good as the first one, if not a little better.
Have you ever seen the footage of that concert they did in Japan for Bravely Default?
Yeah, I've seen the whole concert.
It's crazy.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
The art of that game, and just like I'm sick about the art of that game. Like both Bravely Defaults, the first one and the second one. I'm just like, dude, it's so good.
Yeah.
I was thinking of asking you, I have a bunch of random questions to ask you for people who are listening, and then I realized you made a video on one of the topics. I was going to ask you, what is your personal favorites village themes in Monster Hunter? But you did a tier list. But I'm curious, outside the tier list, like when you're saying like in context, what is the village, if you had to pick one, which is unfair, if you had to pick one, what would be probably one of your favorite, at least as of right now, like thinking about it, for village themes?
If I have to pick just one, I just have to go with my nostalgia and my bias. So it would be Moga Village.
Moga.
Yeah, which is one of my favorite composers, by the way, is Tadayoshi Makino, right?
Yeah.
Makino.
He did the soundtrack for Dragon's Dogma as well. If you haven't listened to that, oh my god, that guy.
I'm actually playing a little bit of Dragon's Dogma now, because Iceborne has been a little stressful, so I'm alternating between Iceborne and Dragon's Dogma.
You're playing all the good stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like damn it, what was the other game that we're talking about the villages. It's like we already know Gaijin's favorite theme, right? It's still Poke, I would assume.
It's Poke, right?
No, it's not.
You use Poke all the time. It's your signature tune.
It's not.
My mind is blown right now.
Yeah, so some fun trivia. The reason why I love the theme song for Poke.
Yeah.
And I used the one from Generations Ultimate in case people were curious, because there are differences between the original and the remix. The reason why I chose Poke, which I actually want to get rid of it, to be honest, because I feel bad that I'm using
the same one all the
time.
Like
if they ever decided like, you know, we're gonna register this with the PRO, like I'm screwed. Like my entire channel goes down. So it's
I worry about that so much.
Yeah. So I keep thinking about, you know, do I want to pay a composer to make, because I don't want to use the generic music, but do I get someone to compose a track for background music? So I chose Poke because I had to listen to my voice being, you know, everyone's voice is different, right? And it's like, what village theme song do I feel personally goes well with my voice, that it doesn't overpower me? There's no really big, you know, like really loud points. There's like one in Poke, but it's not that bad. But it's like it works as a background song for just chilling out and talking, and it's chill. And I chose that because my actual favorite song does not work. It's too melodic. It doesn't it overtakes the voice, which is Cathar is my favorite.
Oh, that's one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, I love Cathar's theme song so much, but it is not good for YouTube video. Trust me, or at least for my voice. Put me on there with that in the background, and maybe it's just me. I'm constantly going back to the music. I'm not listening to me. It's like,
oh my god,
okay.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. My brain was just like going 1,000 miles an hour. Keep going.
No. That's the people have to realize why we're stuttering here. Is we're in 3 different time zones around the world. So the small little lags are funny. But yeah, Cathar is my favorite. But I'm constantly debating what to do about the background. But I do love Poke, and I love Yukumo. But Yukumo's another song. It does not lend itself as a background music for when you're talking. It's too.
I've used
too overpowering.
Yukumo. I just lowered the volume.
You've got a deeper, more powerful voice than I do, and you speak with more intensity and volume.
I just lowered the volume of the track, and to the point it's like, this feels about right. Yeah, there we go. But it's like the thing that I was thinking about, but before that, I should say my favorite one as well. I guess it's Celiana. As a matter of fact, it was interesting because I kind of ripped off Poke from you because I was like, oh man, it really works. It's really good. So on some of my videos, I put Poke as well, and then I was like, okay, I should try some of the other ones. So I would use like Yakumo, Loklak, like all these different ones, and then eventually I landed on Celiana, and I realized I really like Celiana because I have all these memories from Iceborne, right? And the memories, and even just like the melody itself, dun, 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 it just feels really cool. I don't know. That one just clicks with me. But the thing that I was gonna ask is, Davi, did you go into the gathering hub of Celiana during Summer Festival?
I did, but Is it about the music? Because
yes, the music.
I don't remember the music.
Damn it.
I don't remember it.
It's like
I don't even remember.
It's like the most tropical thing. It reminded me a lot of like Brazilian sounds and stuff like that, you know, because it's very tropical. And I was wondering if you, I guess it didn't leave much of an impression.
Okay, and I think the people listening to podcast, I could be wrong, but I think the question on everybody's mind, completely unrelated to music, but do you feel Wyverians are born from the womb like humans or hatched in eggs? What do you think is more probable? Because we actually don't know. We don't know for sure, but we can have our own headcanon. What do you think it is?
I can't believe that.
Yes, I'm going to burn away one of my questions on this.
Well,
if you had a guess.
I'm gonna say no. They're not born from eggs.
Yay!
The single reason is that it makes it less disturbing.
Yes.
I remember. I saw a tweet today which said, "Minoto, yeah, she's a good egg," something like that.
It's become a really funny joke, and it's just kind of interesting that they want to keep the culture so vague that they never touch upon it. They just say that they have a very low reproduction rate. That's why there's so few of them, but they don't touch on it, and it's just really funny because now we can come up with all sorts of funny little explanations of where they come from.
But actually, now that I think about it, I actually saw a tweet the other day pointing out that Wyverians have belly buttons.
Yeah, so that's the problem though. Only in the spin-off titles. In the mainline titles, they've never shown. I have one piece of art that shows a hint of what might be a belly button. They've never shown them. They're always clothed. So Stories and Riders does have belly buttons, and then there's the whole people saying no, there's some reptiles that have belly buttons. I'm like, yeah, but Minoto's not shedding her skin.
You don't know that.
And they're not reptiles because if Hinoa was cold-blooded, you know how much calories she'd be intaking eating all those dango every day? Like, she wouldn't need to eat that much. Like, I have a lizard. You give her a few crickets, she's good for a week. You know, like a crocodile have a chicken is good for a week. Like, hot-blooded animals are the ones that eat a lot, you know? So I was like, okay. Nah, they're
So
sorry, I had to ask. It's a fun topic that's been brought up, and I'm happy that we have another believer of natural.
I don't know if I missed like a video somewhere or something that I remember looking through your channel. I didn't find this one specific track, which was Rise's arena track, which is like potentially my favorite tune in Rise. Did you? Do that one yet? You haven't done it yet. Okay.
I haven't done.
Yeah, because I remember looking for it and I was like, I wonder why I haven't done this one. That one like really marked me personally. It's like very. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, arena tracks usually are very good, but weirdly, not a lot of people have requested it, and I usually go by request, you know.
Oh,
so.
Okay, I get it. Yeah.
So everyone needs to subscribe to you,
Exactly.
hit the like button, and then leave comments to say, hey, I would love to hear your take on this song, because I think you did Ludwig from Bloodborne by request, and that was an awesome video.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, pretty much all of them are from requests. And the video this week is one by request as well. It's one that people have requested a lot, but sometimes I don't do it. I wait for the right time. Yeah. And now with Rise on PC coming out, I feel like it's the right time. So
it's the right time.
It's gonna be a rise thing. By the time this comes out, I think it will be out already.
I don't know. Ruri's fast when it comes to preparing these podcasts and getting them out.
I'm probably gonna be releasing it tomorrow.
Yeah, 24 hours.
Oh, so you won't
He's
be out.
fast. Like I say, this is not like we recorded this last month. No, he's fast.
Yeah, we got to keep up to date with the trends. No, it's just like I just
computer science major, man. That's what happens.
It's like it's not particularly hard to edit like podcasts. I just put the whole thing up. It's like it's done. It's recorded. It's done. So yeah, we don't.
Here's.
Go for it.
I have as I realize we're coming on 2 hours, so I don't want to take too much of your time, and I'm sure Ruri's falling asleep because he's.
It's only 1:30 in the morning yet.
So I had a few random questions I wanted to ask, but you said in one of your videos that music has the power to induce the full range of human emotions, and I'm kind of curious, as a composer, what have you found to be one of the hardest emotions to convey through music?
Awkwardness, because it's very difficult to make a song feel awkward and rough without making you, the composer, feel awkward and rough. It's very difficult to make the subject feel kind of. I have this difficulty with songs that are supposed to sound kind of childish and bad on purpose. And it's not like I'm saying, it's so hard to sound bad. But songs that need to feel primitive as well, like if it's like a caveman character or something that's supposed to have very rough and primitive and kind of awkward and unskilled personality to it, it's very difficult to do that professionally and sound professional.
Yeah, I guess that would be the case, right? Because your job is to add structure, but what you're trying to do is have something that's unstructured.
Yeah, I'm constantly worried that the person will listen to the song and instead of thinking, wow, this character is kind of awkward, I'm constantly worried that the person will think, wow, this composer is bad. That's difficult to do.
Interesting.
That's fascinating. I was gonna say I was trying to track down one of your first pieces in a game, and it was funny because one of the ones it's not the first one you've done. It's just the first one that you had listed on your website, I think. But it's funny because it has like such Monster Hunter vibes. I'm like, that's a hunter who composed that song. It was the Fortified Lands theme from the theme song for Fortified Lands, the MMORPG. Yeah. It's got like such if you listen to that from the perspective of Monster Hunter, you're like, that's a hunter who made that song. Into the wild, like open world, like we're going on an adventure, hard terror kind of stuff. But
that was one of the first, I think. That must have been maybe the third game I worked on. That one's really old.
And then I guess it has nothing to do with games, probably, but actually maybe it might, because the music industry we could spend days talking about the complexity and weirdness of the music industry. But I was kind of curious from a video game composer perspective. What's like the challenges you must be very different than recording artists, because I remember I love Steve Vai. He's of course a guitarist, and he for the recording artists, I think the biggest thing he said was do your own publishing. That's the most important thing to keep in mind as a song creator, is to own your own It's not like you have to go to publishers these days. Like you can do it, and it's really important. But like, what type of weird complications or things that, like, if you were to go back in time and tell yourself a decade ago or whatever, like, hey, you should also consider learning up about this. Is there any subject or weirdness when it comes to games?
Yeah. Keep the rights to your own songs. It's kind of similar to the thing Steve Vai said, because Steve Vai he talks a lot about that as well, and it's interesting because he did a very smart thing that was he kept the rights to his first album, and his first album's like it was one of the least successful ones, and he kept the rights to that album, and he became more famous and more famous and more famous, and he never gave away the rights to that album. So I don't remember which interview it is, but I remember him saying in an interview that album, even though it one of the ones that sold the less, it's the one that made him the most, because he just makes all the money from it. And that's, especially in indie, that's important for composers as well. And that is not something that works super well in AAA. AAA, they usually
it's all work for hire, right? Usually.
Yeah, it's work for hire. And even in indie, they like to keep the rights, but you can work something out and get like a license or something to sell the music. That is that's very important, because it helps you create a form of sustained income,
Yeah.
So that helps.
So for that reminds me, composers out there.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, for aspiring composers out there, they should keep that stuff in mind.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Frank Lepacki. I don't know if he got to keep his the rights to like his Command and Conquer tracks, because like he would do them in concerts and stuff all the time. You've ever heard of Frank Lepaki?
Yes. No, but it's a similar situation to, oh my god, what's the name? The Doom guy, the Doom composer.
Peter, I think is it Mike Gordon. Mike Gordon, I think, right?
Yes. Mike Gordon. Or Mick Gordon, I guess.
Mick, something Gordon.
Yeah, something Gordon. He plays the stuff on concerts, and I'm almost sure, because that always happens in AAA. I'm almost sure that he actually gave away the rights, because you have to in AAA, and in indie a lot of times you have to, but you can work something out, because the video game company is not interested in making money from concerts most of the time. So you can maybe get a license here and a license there, and you can.
They're not looking to exploit it outside of the advertisement and the integration in the game itself. So you're like, okay, I'll grant you whatever you want for that. No term in this context, but anything beyond that is my rights. Generally, they'd be fine with that, right? AAA is like they're thinking about soundtracks and concerts and other ways to exploit is such a bad word, but it's the industry term. Yeah. Unfortunately, because it's not negative. It just means to utilize your creation.
Yeah.
For but it's a good point. Yeah. Like maybe people aren't even thinking about it when they're just like, I was just thinking work for hire and like whatever. It's like, well, maybe they're not really bought into that idea, and so, say, well, if you just need it in this context, let's just do a license.
Yeah.
So
and that reminds me as well of the not related to music, but the guy that wrote the Witcher, and he made the license to CD Projekt Red. He just told them, just give me a bag of money. I don't want percentages or anything. and then the game just exploded. The game series is super popular now.
But so you haven't heard the rest of that story then? He came back and he like wanted to sue them for money because the game was so successful. Yeah,
you made a bad decision. You gotta live by it.
He went after them for more money, and here's the interesting part: they actually just decided to give him more money. Like I know they gave him something. I don't know the exact specifics, but they basically just gave. Sure, here's some money. Like we don't care. But I was actually curious because that's like a copyright situation, right? And I'm wondering, where would you fall in this? So like, say you've composed something and you own the rights to it, and say like a streamer is like using your music, gives you credit, all of that. Like, where do you land on something like that?
I usually allow everyone to use my music on streams, on YouTube videos. There's actually a YouTuber, he's called Gym Leader Ed. It's a guy that he covers just monster taming games. He covers monster taming games, but he covered, for example, Stories 2 when it came out. He's just about monster taming games, and he uses one of my tracks for his outro, like every single video. And dude, at the click of a button,
you could destroy this person.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say. At the click of a button on my digital distributor, I can claim like all of his videos.
That's so
but
evil.
But it's not just evil, it's unproductive. Like
I was gonna say, like, I can't help but think about the Toho Project franchise, which I'm a huge fan of. It's the biggest indie franchise in the world, and the reason why is because the creator says, as long as you're not a corporation, and he well defines what that means, and he's like, you are an individual, then you don't claim ownership of it, then it's you can use it, you could remix it, you can do whatever the heck you want, you can even do it within certain boundaries, you can sell it, I don't care. Like, and he gives a free license to indies because he says, I'm inspired from works, and my stuff is derivative, so hey, you want to do derivative works, go for it. But if you're a company, then you got to get a license. But that's what allows it to thrive in his work to get out there, is the willingness to be open.
I feel like this aggressive copyright mentality, it's a very antiquated thing. Yeah, and it's self-destructive, and it's old customs and old laws that didn't catch up to the way things work now. I want people to use my music in their videos. I want people to know my music and to, you know, admire me as an artist and see myself as an artist that, you know, has composed a lot and has all this music being used everywhere. I have ways of monetizing my music, and if people want to pay, they go out there and pay. But if people don't know about it, then they can't pay me.
Yeah.
And it's so sad to see like companies. I love Nintendo, but it's so sad to see more recently how sometimes some big companies, instead of encouraging and nourishing fans, they end up punishing an expression of love from fans. And I'll never do that. Maybe don't resell my music and do other shady stuff like that. But
obviously,
there's a difference between expression of love and expression of exploit of taking advantage.
Yeah, but I'll never punish fans and stuff like that. I'll never do that.
But yeah, it's a difficult subject, especially in the realm of AAA.
It's like even like, you know, the videos that I make, I've always said that, like, hey, listen, if you ever want to make a video and use something that I've done, so long as you just like blatantly re-upload my video and monetize it, right? So long as you don't do that, like, use whatever you want, react or remix or do pair. Is like, I don't care, because like I don't think that, you know, like, say for instance, I would get exclusive footage to something. I don't think that the fact that I got exclusive footage should be like the value of my channel. Like, the commentary should add something there, and the footage is like, it's the footage, and people should be allowed to use it, whatever.
Awesome. Well, that's I could talk to you for ages, and but I'm going to keep my questions on hold for hopefully we'll get you back on the podcast one day, because there's just much I want to talk about. But I absolutely love your work, and I love the videos that you do as well, and just the reaction stuffs, and it's just an interesting way to listen and appreciate music all over again. So I hope you continue the series. It's great.
Yeah, guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for doing this. This has been fun.
No problem. And so I'm gonna do an outro. And then when I do this, it means you get to say the last thing, Davi. Okay? When I give you this, you get to say the last. It's funny because usually I would do this without telling anybody, and people are like, what? So now it's just looking. It's just part of the podcast now. It's like, hey,
you get the last word, yeah.
So, guys, like me and Gaijin have already said multiple times, make sure to check out Davi. It's going to be links in the description. You guys got to check him out. It's really good. And it's almost like, I was talking to him before the podcast, and each one of his videos is almost like a gateway drug, because at the end of the video, it's like, hey, you like this? You should check this other one right here. It's like, I started watching one, and by the time I was like, okay, so almost 2 hours have gone by.
Season 2 of
like, binged all of these videos. Like, all right. I heavily recommend. Really, really good. And
if you like them, share them. Sharing is how things get out there. So
make sure to share it, and I guarantee that a lot of you that watch these videos, you will listen to music in a way that you haven't listened before, because Davi's got like the golden ear. But that is going to be it for this podcast. It's almost 2 a.m. I'm going to get some sleep. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button. Remember, links in the description, like I said, for Gaijin stuff, for Davi stuff, all of that. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe.
And remember, whenever you're ready to go on a Monster Hunter journey again, Ruri and Gaijin will see you there.
All right.